Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. There are places that do not exist until someone remembers how to wait. The Bridge of Dreams was one of them. They say it was built not of stone or wood, but of pauses, woven between two skies that forgot how to disagree. When night leaned too close to dawn, when breath lingered longer than it should, the bridge shimmered into being. It was not meant for walking. It was meant for listening. The first sound was not sound at all. A trembling between thoughts, a music only the soul could hear. Stars hung low, reflected on a river so still it seemed afraid of truth. And from that mirror of water, something began to rise. Light curved into form, forming arches that glowed like the memory of touch. On the far side, the world of waking, mountains that breathed, trees that sighed like sleeping beasts. On this side, the realm of dream, where echoes had weight and shadows remembered the warmth of the sun. Between them the bridge waited. It had no maker, no purpose, no gate, only longing. One night, when both moons stood in balance, a wanderer arrived at the edge of the dream. She carried no torch, no map, only a single question. What lies beyond reflection? The air held its breath. The river quivered, not from wind, but recognition. And then, for the first time since silence had learned to hum, the bridge of dreams began to glow. The wanderer stepped forward. Each footfall rang like memory against the water. Every echo she left behind folded itself into the next, building a song too patient to end. Above her, the constellations leaned close, curious. Below her, another sky reached upward, holding its breath in perfect imitation. For an instant the two worlds touched, not by will but by wonder, and where they met the bridge sang, not loudly, but softly, as if remembering a promise it had never made aloud. By the time dawn reached its first breath, the bridge had vanished. The wanderer was gone. And yet, if you listen to the edge of any dream, the part just before waking, you may still hear the faint hum of something being built between two worlds. Something that waits for you. Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight, we drift beneath the quiet sky, where memory flows between worlds, and water dreams of the heavens it reflects. When the wanderer awoke, there was no dawn, only a soft silver between sleeping and becoming. The bridge was gone, but its hum lingered in the river below. Each ripple carried a sound too gentle to be heard, too true to be doubted. The air smelled of dreams that had forgotten to end. Mist coiled around her ankles as if reluctant to let her stand. She looked into the river and saw two skies, one above waking and pale, one below endless and waiting. They moved differently, like twins born on opposite sides of a breath. And she understood this was the river that remembered both skies. The river did not flow, pondered. It carried not water, but the memory of things that had once wanted to be reflected. And in that reflection she saw herself, not as she was, but as she had been dreamed. Her reflection smiled before she did. Then it whispered, "You crossed once. You can cross again, but this time without leaving." The words folded into ripples, and the river swallowed their echo like a promise already kept. She knelt and touched the water. It felt warm, not from sun, but from stories still alive within it. A voice rose, not from depth but from everywhere at once. It was the river speaking in a tone older than sound. Do you remember the night you first wished to be seen? The wanderer closed her eyes. Images drifted. Her mother's hand brushing her hair, the stars she counted to keep from feeling small, the silence that once felt heavier than sleep. I remember, she whispered, and I remember not knowing why. The water shimmered. That not knowing is what kept you whole, it said. To cross between worlds, you must never stop wondering which one you belong to. She almost smiled. So I am still lost? The river pulsed once. Neither yes nor no, but the peace that exists between them. Downstream, a figure stood knee-deep in the luminous water. Its cloak was woven from ripples, its eyes the color of still ponds before dawn. The wanderer approached. "Are you the river?" she asked. "No," the figure replied, voice like rain meeting glass. "I am the keeper of currents. I remember how movement learned to be gentle." He raised one hand. From his palm flowed strands of light that bent into shapes. Mountains that had once been waves, raindrops that had once been stars, and faces she almost recognized, fading too quickly to name. "Every current carries a memory," he said. "When the bridge appeared, you awoke one of mine." "What memory?" The first time silence spoke back. The keeper gestured, and the river brightened. "Come," he said. "Walk the current." She hesitated. "Walk, not on within. Let it remember you, and you will remember what it was before it became water." So she stepped forward. The surface did not break. Thickened, holding her weight like trust made tangible. Beneath her feet, ripples bloomed like breath on glass. Each one glowed for a heartbeat, then vanished, carrying a fragment of her name into the flow. The deeper she walked, the more she saw. Above, stars that waited for dawn's permission. Below, the same stars, sighing in their mirrored sky. Between them, she walked as one might move through memory, careful not to disturb what had already forgiven her. The keeper followed, his steps making no sound. "The river remembers both skies," he said, "but it favors neither. That is its secret balance without choosing." "Then it is wiser than I," she said. The keeper's reflection looked up from below and smiled differently than the one beside her. "Or perhaps," it said, "it is simply older at pretending." As they reached the center of the river, the world tilted, not in motion but in meaning. The stars below brightened until they shone through her skin, as if her body were made of glass and story. She could feel both skies pulling gently, one asking her to wake, the other asking her to stay. And between them, she realized, she was not being torn. She was being stretched into understanding. The keeper raised his hand again. "Every river begins as a tear," he said. "When the heavens could not agree on where to end, they wept, and the tear became a bridge." "So this water is sorrow?" "No. It is what sorrow becomes when it learns to be kind." He pointed downstream. There, the river widened into a plain of mirrors, and in each reflection, she saw moments not of her life, but of countless others. A child letting go of fear, a soldier choosing mercy, a lover closing their eyes, knowing goodbye can also be gratitude. Each image flickered and flowed away. Every kindness ever made ends here, the keeper said. And from here it begins again, upstream. The wanderer wept without knowing why. Her tears hit the water and did not disappear. They glowed, merged, and began to drift away, joining the flow as if they had always belonged. Hours passed, though time itself had stopped trying to count. The night above dimmed as dawn below began to rise. She looked down. The reflected sky was now brighter than the one overhead. "Why does it shine beneath us?" she asked. The keeper turned. "Because dreams wake before we do. The world below is already remembering what you have not yet seen." She knelt, touching the glowing surface. Her reflection smiled. Not her, but the version that had crossed the bridge and never returned. The reflection spoke. "You are not meant to choose between skies. You are meant to teach them how to meet." Then it reached upward, and for the briefest moment water became light, and light became her hand. They touched. There was no sound, only the stillness of completion. The river began to shimmer with colors that had no names, hues that seemed to hum, shades that spoke of forgotten lullabies. Every drop vibrated like a chord plucked softly in the distance. And she understood. This river was not water, not memory, not even reflection. It was the dream of connection itself. Each ripple was a breath from both worlds, each current a word spoken at the exact same time by night and day. She whispered, "Then what am I?" The keeper answered gently, "You are the bridge's echo, its heartbeat when silence tries to end." They reached the far shore. Mist curled upward like smoke remembering fire. The sky above and below folded into one, a single blue so deep it hummed. The keeper stopped. "This is where you leave the river." "I don't want to forget," she said. "You won't," he replied. "The river never forgets those who walk it gently." He held out his hand. From his palm dripped a single droplet, glowing like a small captured dawn. "When the bridge returns, this will guide you." "What is it?" "The memory of both skies, so you may carry balance wherever you stand." She took it. It sank into her skin, and for a moment, she could hear the sound of stars breathing underwater. As she climbed the riverbank, the light dimmed behind her. The hum of water faded, replaced by wind moving through unseen trees. She turned once more. The river was gone. In its place, only dew on grass, glistening with two suns that would never meet except here. She whispered, "Thank you for remembering." And in reply the morning mist bowed, as if to say, "We never stopped." Before her stretched the path toward the next world, a valley of drifting light where dreams bled slowly into waking. In her palm, the droplet pulsed once, warm, steady, infinite. She looked upward. The sky blinked, and for an instant she saw two moons touching, a reflection closing its eyes to become truth. The bridge would appear again. Not today, not tomorrow, but when another heart stood quietly enough to listen. And when it did, the river that remembered both skies would hum once more, calling not for travelers, but for those ready to belong to both sides of a dream. The wanderer stood where the river once flowed, Now only dew clung to her feet, each droplet pulsing faintly, as though the river had chosen to hide inside the grass, waiting to be remembered. The horizon trembled. It was neither night nor dawn, but that fragile hush when both forget who they are. Light bled through the mist, gold and gray and something unnamed, a color that felt like remembering one's own name after too long a silence. She breathed in, and the air tasted like the first note of a song that hadn't yet decided to exist. She walked, not toward the sun, but toward its echo. Each step made the ground hum, a low resonance that seemed to answer the pulse within her chest. For the first time since crossing the bridge, she realized her heartbeat no longer belonged solely to her. It matched something far greater, a rhythm that was neither mortal nor divine, but the quiet center where both meet. As the haze lifted, she found herself standing upon an endless plain of mirrored sand. Above, sky like glass. Below, its perfect twin, unbroken. It was not solid, yet it did not yield. Every step rippled across both horizons. The world, it seemed, was holding its breath, and she was walking through the inhale. Then she heard it, faint at first, then deep as thunder whispered underwater. A breath, not her own. It came from everywhere, the sound of a sleeping world exhaling slowly. The ground trembled gently, and light rippled across the mirrored plains. She realized the truth. The world itself was asleep, and she was standing upon its dream. From the horizon rose a figure, vast and slow as dawn forming shape. It was neither man nor woman, but the suggestion of form sculpted from mist and starlight. His face bore no features, only shifting constellations. When it spoke, the sound felt like waves returning to a forgotten shore. You walk where dreams breathe, child of two skies. Few cross here without forgetting themselves. She bowed, not from fear, but reverence. I seek what lies between, she said, where the bridge leads when both worlds fall silent. The being regarded her with its formless gaze. To find the in-between, you must first unlearn the need to reach either side. The figure extended its hand. From its palm unfolded a swirl of light, shaped like an eye yet deeper than sight. This is the sleeper's heart, it said. It beats once every 1,000 years, when the dream and the waking world touch. The wanderer stared into it. Inside, she saw lives flickering, moments not her own. A mother rocking her child, a tree sighing under snow, a whisper carried through the hollow of forgotten prayers. Every image pulsed with the same rhythm, the same breath. The sleeper's heart began to glow brighter, until its light pressed against her skin like warmth remembered. She felt the world's breath move through her. Time stilled. Even thought slowed, softening into awareness. It was then that she understood. The line between dream and waking wasn't a place. It was a moment. And that moment was eternal. She reached out, and the air trembled like glass about to sing. The world flickered, not changing, but revealing what it had always been. The sand below turned to stars, the sky above to water, and she stood at the exact point where reflection became reality. Here light had weight, here memory had shape, here Sound became color and time. A gentle tide moving nowhere in particular. The sleeper spoke again. Every dream believes it is real until it awakens. Every world believes it is awake until it dreams again. Its voice faded, leaving behind a single whisper that wrapped itself around her heartbeat. To cross this horizon, you must let both truths dissolve. The bridge of breaths. Her pulse slowed until it matched the rhythm of the world beneath her. Then, for the first time, she heard the bridge, not as structure, not as light, but as breath. It was everywhere. Each inhalation, a gathering of memory. Each exhalation, a soft surrender of meaning. The bridge was alive, connected not distance but understanding. And she walked it once more, not forward, not back, but inward. Each step was soundless. Each thought melted into stillness. The space between her footsteps filled with echoes of every world she had touched. Rivers that remembered skies, stars that envied oceans, winds that carried lullabies never sung aloud. It all met here, woven into the breath that was both hers and the sleeper's. In the center of the horizon stood another figure, herself. Not reflection, not shadow, but the part of her that had stayed behind each time she crossed. This version was still, eyes closed, lips parted as though mid-dream. When the wanderer approached, the air rippled, like the surface of sleep disturbed by thought. She touched the twin's hand. It was warm, pulsing gently. At that instant, the two became one, a single breath shared across countless worlds. She saw through her reflection's eyes, and the world unfolded, the bridge stretching infinitely in both directions, its arches built not from stone, but from every connection ever made between hearts. Each bond, each act of understanding was a step in the bridge's body. Light poured from above, not blinding, but revealing. It illuminated not form, but meaning, every particle of air shimmering with stories waiting to be told. She could see them all, dreamers turning over in their sleep, mountains remembering they were once waves, the stars humming softly so the void would not feel alone. And within it all herself, not separate but belonging. She whispered to the horizon, "Then this is what it means to wake?" The voice returned, faint but smiling. To wake is to remember that you are part of what dreams. The light dimmed slowly, and she felt the bridge begin to fade. Not gone, simply returning to the space between heartbeats. The world resumed its breath. Night and day began to trade places again, their edges soft and endless. The wanderer exhaled, and realized she had been holding her breath for centuries. When the air left her lips, it turned to mist, drifting upward to join the forming clouds. Somewhere above, the sleeper turned in its slumber, and the stars rippled in approval. Before she stepped away, she turned once more to the fading line between dream and day. The mist shimmered, not as farewell, but recognition. When you breathe, it whispered, you become the bridge again. She smiled, not because she understood, but because she didn't need to anymore. Her hand glowed faintly, The droplet of memory the keeper once gave her now pulsing gently beneath her skin. She looked up. The skies, both of them, waited, and as she stepped forward, the horizon did not end. It followed, stretching endlessly, like the breath of something eternal learning, once again, to dream. When the wanderer stepped beyond the horizon, she expected darkness. Instead, the world unfolded in endless twilight, a soft, luminous dusk where everything shimmered, but nothing cast a shadow. The sky glowed without a sun. The air itself seemed to remember being light, even after the source had gone. She walked carefully, for the ground felt thin, like she was treading upon the memory of brightness rather than the thing itself. In the distance, mountains appeared only when she looked away, as though the world existed by courtesy of her faith in it. Each breath drew a faint gleam into her lungs. It was not warmth, but something older, like inhaling the aftertaste of creation. As she traveled, faint outlines emerged, arches of pale stone, towers sculpted from glass so transparent they almost disappeared. It was a city built from the ghost of light. Every wall gleamed with radiance, yet no sun rose above it. Every shadow glimmered faintly, as if unwilling to exist fully. She entered the silent streets. No footsteps echoed. The air pulsed gently, filled with the sound of distant breathing, as though the city itself were asleep. Then she saw them, figures of pure luminescence, drifting like memories caught in slow wind. They had faces once. She could sense it, but now they were outlines walking without direction. They passed her without seeing. Each left behind a trail of faint gold that dissolved into the air. And from their lips, though they never opened, came a whisper. We forgot where we began. At the heart of the city stood a dome of cracked crystal. Inside, light pulsed like a heartbeat trapped in glass. A figure waited within, a man, or perhaps an echo of one. His skin shimmered like moonlight on water. His eyes were hollowed suns. Before him lay thousands of mirrors, each reflecting not the world, but fragments of something deeper, moments, faces, the trembling of meaning. You've come far, he said, his voice both warm and aching. Most who enter this place dissolve before they remember why they came. I'm searching, she replied, for where the bridge leads when the dream begins to fade. He smiled faintly. Then you've found its midpoint, where light itself forgets its path home. She glanced at the mirrors. Each showed a version of her, some older, some younger, some still walking the river that remembered both skies. What are these? Reflections that never return to their source, he said. I craft them to keep the forgotten company. He lifted one shard, and in its surface she saw 1,000 suns rising, but none casting light beyond their own edge. Long ago, the mirror smith began. There was a first light. It shone before the stars, before even the breath of gods. It was pure without name or shape. But in shining it desired to be seen, and that desire gave birth to shadow. The shadow longed to return to light, and the light, fearing its own loneliness, poured itself outward to meet it. That outpouring became worlds, rivers, bridges, souls, all reflections. But in giving everything away, the light forgot the warmth that had once been its center. He turned one of the mirrors toward her. In it, she saw herself standing in the city, But there, her eyes were hollow, her glow faint. She realized the truth. This place was not a city of light, but a sanctuary for illumination that no longer knew what it illuminated. A low hum filled the chamber, soft, mournful. It came from the cracks in the crystal dome. Through them, faint strands of radiance escaped into the dark sky above, twisting like sighs turned visible. The mirrorsmith lifted his hands. Each crack brightened, a constellation struggling to remember its pattern. "Listen," he said. "This is the sound of light learning to pray." The hum deepened into a tone that resonated inside her bones. She closed her eyes and heard voices. Not words, but intentions. Regret, longing, gratitude, surrender. Each note carried something human, something divine. And then she realized it was the same sound the bridge had made when she first crossed. The same language of longing turned into connection. The mirrorsmith approached her, holding a single shard, smaller than his palm, glowing like memory restrained. "This piece remembers the beginning," he said. When the first shadow bowed to its own reflection, he placed it gently against her chest. It did not burn, it bloomed. Light poured through her, not blinding but endless. She saw every world she had touched. The river that remembered both skies, the horizon that learned to breathe, the figures of luminescence wandering these silent streets. All of them were fragments of one heartbeat, her own, extended through eternity. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Not water, but faint streaks of light dissolving before they fell. "Why do we forget?" she asked. The mirrorsmith looked at her with gentle sorrow. "Because remembrance is heavy. Even light cannot carry itself forever. So it scatters, through mirrors, through dreams, through you." He stepped back, fading slowly, his outline merging with the fractured radiance around them. "Do not seek the source," he whispered. "Be it." The dome shuddered. Every mirror trembled, their reflections bending into spirals of color and flame. The wanderer felt the shard inside her pulse once, twice, then expand into brilliance. The city groaned, not in pain but in release. Cracks raced across the walls like veins of lightning. Light poured outward, flooding streets, dissolving towers, washing over her skin. And through it all, she heard countless voices, each a spark returning to something larger. "We remember, we return, we shine again." When the brilliance faded, there was no city, only sky. She stood upon a plain of soft radiance, weightless. Above, the stars pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Below, the reflection pulsed back. For a moment, she could not tell which was real. She breathed, and the air glowed. Her exhale drifted outward like dawn-forming thought. The shard inside her had vanished, yet its warmth remained, a quiet center that hummed with every breath. Then she understood. Light had never forgotten its source. It had only been waiting for something that could remember for it. In the distance, a line of gold arched across the void, a familiar shape, woven from breath and reflection. The bridge of dreams, reborn. It no longer shimmered with longing, but with peace. Every strand of its light was woven from the remnants of the city, from the souls who had learned to let go. She stepped toward it. Each stride left ripples of faint luminescence in her wake. as though the world itself was grateful for being seen again. Halfway across, she paused and looked back. The endless twilight stretched behind her, quiet and whole. No city, no keeper, no sorrow, only harmony. As she reached the midpoint, the bridge pulsed gently. A whisper moved through the air. When light forgets, it becomes life. When life remembers, it becomes light again. She smiled. The truth did not need to be understood. It only needed to be felt, like the pulse of a star knowing it would rise again tomorrow. She closed her eyes and breathed. The bridge glowed brighter, not because of her, but because through her, the universe remembered its own reflection. When she opened her eyes, there was no bridge, no horizon, no form, only stillness, and within it, a soft illumination that needed no source. She felt herself dissolving, not disappearing, but expanding. Every thought drifted outward, joining the quiet hum of creation learning to begin again. Her final whisper echoed through both worlds. May all light forget just enough to find itself again. And somewhere, between two breaths, the bridge of dreams sang once more, a soundless chord weaving dawn from memory, and memory from love. After the light remembered its source and became stillness, the wanderer found herself upon a pale strand where waves were made of hush. They rose and fell without foam, as if the sea were practicing how to begin. Each wave carried a picture not yet decided. A door that might open, a hand that might reach, a name that might be spoken without asking it to last. She listened. The horizon did not line the world. It leaned toward her like a companion who knows when not to speak. From beneath the quiet water came a steady pulse, soft, deliberate, like a heart discovering rhythm for the first time. "The dream is near," said a voice that did not arrive from distance but unfolded from her chest. A figure waited at the place where the tide took its smallest step. They wore a robe the color of first light through linen. Their hair was a crown of patient wind. Around their wrists, faint silver threads trailed into the sea as if the world had chosen them for a hinge. "I am Aya," the figure said, "midwife of breath. I guide beginnings that are afraid to be born." The wanderer bowed. "Is the dream a child?" I smiled. "Every dream is older than the one who carries it, and younger than the one who receives it. It is not an infant. It is a door." "What must I do?" the wanderer asked. "Witness without wanting," Aya answered, "and speak only when the quiet cannot hold itself together." Aya lifted a glass bowl from the tide. Inside, water turned in place, forming a little vortex that never spilled. "This is the cradle," Aya said. "When the dream is ready, it will enter. You will see it watch itself." The sea brightened from beneath, as though stars had chosen to swim upward. A small glow gathered on the surface, then sank, then gathered again. It looked like shyness learning a shape. The wanderer leaned forward. In the curling light, she saw her own hand reach for her, not from a mirror, but from a future that had already forgiven the past. "Do not touch," Aya whispered. "Let it arrive." The glow stretched into a thin line like a smile that hadn't decided to be mouth or horizon. Then the line curved, formed a circle, and within it a dark center. Not emptiness, but room. "The dream has made a cup," Aya murmured. "Now it will fill itself with what it is not." in order to learn what it is. Wind rose and opened paths in the mist. Along the strand appeared many doorways standing by themselves. Some led into dusk, some into kitchens where quiet work made music, some into gardens where the shadows of trees were more precise than the trees. On every lintel, a small word glowed and faded. If I had gestured to the doors. These are rooms the dream might choose as its first memory. Walk among them but leave no footprint. It must decide without thinking you chose for it. The wanderer passed each threshold without entering. At one, she smelled bread and storms. At another, she heard a bell that did not need to ring to be understood. At a third, she saw people gathered around a table long enough to include those who hadn't arrived. Her heart ached with wanting. She stepped back into the sand and steadied her breath. The listener of unsaid names. A child sat on the shore drawing circles with a wet reed. She did not look up. "Who are you?" the wanderer asked softly. "I am the listener," the child said. "I keep the names not spoken aloud so they won't be lonely." She traced another circle and inside it wrote nothing very carefully. "What name is that?" "The one we don't demand," the child said. "The dream prefers it. If you chase a name, it hides under the bed and giggles forever." The wanderer laughed, and the child looked pleased to have caused weather. The glow on the sea lifted itself like a bead of light and hovered over Aya's bowl. It hesitated, as if checking whether anyone would clap, then lowered into the cradle with a sound like cloth agreeing to be folded. The water cupped it. The glow deepened, turning from silver to soft amber. Within the amber, movement. At first a ripple, then a breathing. Tiny and complete. "It watches," Aya said. "Not you and not itself. It watches watching." The wanderer felt tears gather without weight. She leaned closer, and the dream's surface showed an image. A bridge woven from pauses, a river that remembered both skies, a city of light that forgot and then returned. But the images did not play like story. They breathed like a chest. Inhale, appearing. Exhale, belonging. Between sea and land a ribbon of damp sand darkened, bright as ink laid down in one stroke. Aya stepped onto it and beckoned. "This is the mid-shore," they said. "If you speak a vow here, it becomes weather, not command. Weather is kinder to people than laws are." The wanderer stood upon the ribbon and listened to what only her bones knew. "I will not hurry the dream," she said. "I will make room where I am instead of reaching for where I am not." The ribbon lightened, the tide lifted once, and the vow learned to be breeze. From the mist approached figures with open palms. Their hands were full of small returns. A letter unsent, a debt forgiven without receipt, a seed kept warm in a pocket through a winter that forgot its calendar. They knelt by the bowl one by one and held their hands above the glow. Each time, the light pulsed and remembered a way to begin gently. I nodded. "These are the returning hands. The dream must see them so it will know how to hold what arrives late." When they were done, each figure turned their palms to the sky. Rain gathered there and did not fall until the hands were ready to be wet. A new presence joined them, barely seen, almost walked through. It had the outline of a person and the patience of snow. Where it stood, the sound of waves seemed curated rather than constant. "Who are you?" the wanderer asked. "I am Pause," the presence answered. I visit births and endings so people can tell the difference. I will anchor the moment until it remembers it can float. Pause placed an unseen hand above the bowl. The glow steadied, as a candle does when someone has finally closed the window. A shadow moved within the light and formed the shape of an ear. Then a mouth. Then nothing, then again, trying shapes the way dawn tries colors. What does it want? The wanderer asked. Aya's eyes shone with the discipline of kindness. Every dream wants the same first thing, to be safe enough to be strange. Listen. The glow bent toward the shore and the doors and the child drawing circles. It flickered more quickly, then slowed, then widened itself the way a path widens when two travelers meet without deciding who should step aside. It wants room, Aya said simply. Low across the water came bells that did not identify a tower. They sounded like iron taught by rivers. Every tone was mindful of the next, as if they had practiced not overlapping for a century. The far bells call gatekeepers without gates, Aya said. Those who steward arrival with nothing but gentleness. From the mist came elders whose faces held lines that agreed with laughter. They sat in a wide ring and sang without notes, a humming that gave permission to the unseen. The dream brightened. The child smiled at her circle and drew another, then another, until the strand wore a necklace of rooms. Aya turned the bowl toward the wanderer. Now it will ask you to lend your seeing. She peered into the glow. It did not show her face. It showed a place she had never stood but recognized. A threshold in late afternoon, a table set with one more cup than guests, a window that forgave fingerprints because they meant someone had looked out. Is that mine? She whispered. It is ours, Aya said. Dreams are communal long before they are personal. Lend it your breath. She exhaled slowly over the bowl. The glow inhaled. Between them, a third rhythm began, neither hers nor its, but the shared pace of hospitality. The shore darkened to the color of lilacs right before rain. The doors along the strand faced inward. From the water rose a question, written in moving light. Will you protect me, use me, or let me become what I must? The wanderer's first answer was love. Her second was fear. Her third was yes. Aya heard the third and nodded. The dream may be born. The glow unfolded. Not up or out, asterisk through star. It slipped from the bowl into the air like silk into a waiting hand, then settled over the strand so thinly that nothing was hidden and everything was softened. The doors opened one by one, not to rooms but to postures. People stood aside when they could have entered first. Hands placed cups before words arrived. Chairs moved toward those who were unsure where to sit. The sea brightened without glare. Is that all? The wanderer asked, surprised at her delight. I laughed. You expected lightning? Every tender change looks small from above. But watch what happens when 1,000 such changes agree to meet. Above the strand, a second shore appeared, an echo made of brightness. On it, the same doors opened, the same hands placed cups, the same chairs moved. But now the light noticed itself doing these things and did them with even more care. That is the watching, Aya said. When a dream beholds its own kindness, it chooses to continue. The echo shore leaned toward the real one until they touched. Where they met, a warmth spread that did not require attention to endure. From inland came a woman in traveling clothes, boots dusted with roads that knew her name. She carried no staff, only a woven bag that smelled faintly of apples and long trains. "I am Elin," she said. "I keep the art of waking so it won't become conquest." Elin knelt by the bowl and set her bag beside it. From the bag she withdrew small tools. A pencil used to draw breath marks in lullabies, a hand mirror that refused to flatter, a square of linen that had collected the last sighs of 100 evenings and given them back as sleep. "I ask only this," Elin said to the dream. "When people wake inside you, let them keep the gentleness of having just arrived." The dream pulsed in assent. The far bells answered softly. As dusk gathered, readers came, carriers of stories without covers. They read aloud to the sea until sound slowed into tide. With each paragraph, the glow steadied. With each ending, it learned to become beginning without haste. The child drew a final circle and placed the reed in the bowl. It did not sink. It floated like a little mast in a harbor that knew when to sleep. "Now," Aya whispered. The bowl brimmed, not with water, but with decision. The glow drew itself together the way a chorus inhales before the note that will change the hall. Then quietly it was born. No cry, no flash, presence. It occupied the strand and the doors and the ring of elders. It occupied the reader's breath and the child's circles. It occupied the idea of morning without confiscating the night. The dream looked at itself by letting us look with it. It gave away its first gift at once. A pause that arrived before explanation. Wherever a hand reached for certainty, the pause entered first and asked, "May I make room?" If allowed, conflict set down its sword and discovered it had been carrying a broom all along. People laughed, soft, relieved, at how much energy it didn't take to be kind. "What do we call it?" the wanderer asked. Aya shook their head. "We don't. We call what we do." They pointed to the strand. Chairs being moved, cups placed, breath marks drawn, vows made into weather. These actions are its names. Speak them often. The dream seemed pleased that it did not have to answer when addressed. The tide returned for the bowl. Aya set it upon the water, and the sea held it like a letter reading itself. The glow thinned to the softness of air and lived everywhere at once. "Will it last?" the wanderer asked. "As long as we practice," Aya said. "Dreams are not sculptures. They are gardens." Elin lifted her woven bag. "And waking is the path that remembers where the gate is without building a wall." XXII. The road to the final crossing. Night rose, friendly and unafraid. Stars stepped down close to hear footsteps. Aya pressed the wanderer's hands between theirs. "You have one crossing left," Aya said. "Not to end the dream, but to let it survive you." "Where?" "Where two worlds touch without needing to merge." The wanderer looked inland where shadow did not argue with light. Beyond, a faint gold curve suggested a bridge that did not insist on being seen. She walked, and the strand walked with her until it turned to path, until the path turned to breath, until breath turned to invitation. Behind her, people moved chairs and placed cups and drew breath marks on lullabies. Ahead, a horizon waited with both hands open. The dream watched itself being born, and because it liked what it saw, it went on living. The wanderer stood at the edge of everything, because the bridge of dreams was never built. It was remembered. And you? You were the memory all along.